Welcome to the Partis channel. Today we explain Leviticus chapter 12 in a clear and simple way, step by step. Have you ever wondered how ancient societies handled the intense, beautiful, and, let's be honest, physically exhausting reality of childbirth? Well, you might be surprised to find that this exact chapter holds a really fascinating, incredibly structured blueprint for it. So here's the roadmap for our journey today. First, we've got the introduction and brief context. Second, the laws for a newborn son. Third, the laws for a newborn daughter. Fourth, the post-birth offerings. Fifth, clarifying some difficult concepts. And finally, number 6, practical life lessons. Let's jump right in. So what actually happens right after childbirth according to the Torah? To answer this, we're going to dive directly into the plain, straightforward meaning, what we call the pshat, of this incredibly concise but highly structured 8-verse text. We are going to break down exactly what the text says, who is involved, and what they are commanded to do in those crucial, overwhelming days and weeks right after bringing a new life into the world. Okay, Section 1, Introduction and Brief Context. Let's set the stage a bit for these specific commands. The chapter begins with a very direct communication. The text reads, "And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel." Now notice something really important here. These rules aren't some esoteric rituals just reserved for the high priests operating deep inside the tabernacle. Not at all. They are given directly to the everyday people. It's instructing everyday Israelites on the exact procedures following the profound physical and spiritual event of childbirth. It's an acknowledgement of the immense, undeniably heavy toll that creating a new life takes on the human body, and it sets up a mandatory, community-wide system to handle it. Moving on to Section 2, Laws for a Newborn Son. Let's see what happens when a woman gives birth to a baby boy. The text actually breaks the mother's recovery down into 2 very distinct phases. For the first 7 days, the mother enters a state of temporary ritual separation. The text compares this directly to her monthly impurity. Now, people often misunderstand this, but think of this as a dedicated, strictly mandatory period of rest. It acknowledges the immediate biological realities, the bleeding, the sheer exhaustion of labor, the physical trauma, and it gives her an absolute bubble of time to just heal. No external religious expectations, just recovery. And then, integrated directly into this recovery timeline is a massive cultural milestone, the circumcision of the son. This happens exactly on the 8th day. Right as the mother completes her initial 7-day period of separation, the newborn boy undergoes his Brit Milah. This marks his formal entry into the covenant. The timing here is incredibly precise, It weaves the biological healing of the mother perfectly with the spiritual initiation of the child. Then, following that initial week, the mother transitions into Phase 2, an additional 33-day recovery period. The verse literally notes she is in the blood of purification. During this specific block of time, she remains at home. She's not allowed to touch hallowed things, and she absolutely cannot enter the tabernacle. This is a brilliant ancient law. It guarantees she is allowed the extended time her body biologically needs to fully properly heal before she's expected to jump back into the hustle and bustle of communal spiritual life. If we track this chronologically, it paints a really clear picture. We see a total 40-day period from birth to the absolute end of her purification. Think about it. Day 1 is the birth. Day 8 is the circumcision. Combining the initial 7 days of separation with those 33 days of deeper purification, we reach exactly 40 days of dedicated, protected recovery time for the mother. Now, Section 3, Laws for a Newborn Daughter. What happens if the child is a girl? Verse 5 addresses this directly. While the underlying conceptual framework is exactly the same, the timeline is quite different. The structural steps remain identical, but the timeframes, they are exactly doubled. We're looking at 14 days of initial separation, followed by 66 days of purification. The verse explicitly states, "She shall be unclean for 2 weeks, and then continue in the blood of purification for 66 days." So, mapping out the math for a baby girl, the mother's timeline stretches over a total of 80 days. We start at day 1 with the birth. We hit day 14 to mark the end of the initial separation, and then we add 66 days of deeper recovery to finally reach day 80, which is the final day of her purification. It's absolutely fascinating to see this exact mathematical doubling based on the gender of the child. 40 days for a boy, 80 days for a girl. Now, you're probably wondering, why the difference? Well, it's actually a surprising fact that ancient scholars hotly debated exactly why this period is doubled. Some ancient medical traditions firmly believed female infants simply required a longer biological recovery time for the mother. Others took a more spiritual view, seeing it as a double blessing, since a female child carries the profound potential to one day birth life herself. But, regardless of the core reason, the practical, everyday result was that the mother of a baby girl was granted even more uninterrupted rest. All right, moving into section 4, the post-birth offerings. After these respective periods of 40 or 80 days conclude, what's next? We reach the final step outlined in the chapter. Once her time is complete, the mother must bring 2 specific animal sacrifices to the entrance of the tent of meeting, specifically a yearling lamb and a bird. This is the mechanism that allows the priest to restore her fully to the community's ceremonial life. The priest offers these before the Lord to make atonement, officially marking her as clean and ready to re-engage with the sacred sanctuary. However, the Torah does something amazing here. It makes a crucial, highly compassionate accommodation. If a family lacks the financial means to afford a whole lamb, which was quite expensive, 2 birds are perfectly acceptable. Verse 8 explicitly provides this alternative. It ensures that the cost of an animal doesn't prevent a new mother from completing her purification. This is just a beautiful narrative beat, isn't it? It adds incredible heart and deep practicality to these strict rules. This system essentially builds economic equity directly into the text. It makes absolutely sure that religious duties never, ever become an impossible financial burden for a poor family. Whether you bring a lamb and a bird or you just bring 2 simple birds because that's all you have, the result in the sanctuary is exactly the same. The priest makes atonement, and the mother is entirely fully clean. Next up, section 5, clarifying the difficult concepts. Before we pull out our final lessons, let's pause for a second. We really need to clarify a few archaic terms here, because they can easily confuse modern readers who are reading these texts in an English translation. The first one is the concept of being unclean. The crucial point to understand here is that being unclean, or in Hebrew, Tumah, simply restricts access to the Holy Tabernacle. It's a way of honoring the profound, bloody, life and death transition of bringing new life into the world. It is a ritual state of being. It is completely and utterly unrelated to personal hygiene, physical dirtiness, or moral failure. The mother did not do anything wrong. And similarly, let's look at the sin offering, or chitat. In this specific context, a sin offering isn't about moral failure at all. It's about ritual restoration after the intense, overwhelming biological process of bleeding and birth. Again, the mother hasn't committed a moral sin by having a baby, obviously not. Instead, this offering is simply the ritual mechanism that purifies the sacred space and resets her standard ritual status so she can participate in community life again. Finally, section 6, practical life lessons. Let's step back. Why does this ancient text matter, and what should we take away from these laws today? Because beyond the ritual mechanics, there is some serious, deep wisdom embedded here. When you really look at them, these verses beautifully highlight a mandatory sensitivity to a mother's physical recovery. They underscore the extreme sanctity, the absolute weight of creating life. And, as we saw with the offerings, they ensure economic fairness for all families, regardless of their bank account. By enforcing a strict timeline away from communal duties, the text guarantees that a new mother is given the space, the time, and the grace to heal physically and bond with her child, completely protected from being rushed back into society's demands. So, to recap our step-by-step walkthrough of the chapter, the journey consists of 3 main, clearly defined parts. Step 1, the birth and the initial period of separation. Step 2, that extended healing period of either 33 or 66 days. And step 3, finally bringing the offerings to restore full sanctuary access. It is a brilliantly ordered, compassionate progression from the sheer chaos and intensity of labor, safely back into the rhythm of daily spiritual life. So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question. Ask yourself, in our fast-paced modern world where everyone is expected to bounce back instantly, do we give new mothers the same dedicated grace, time, and space to heal that these ancient texts demanded? Thank you for learning with us. If this helped you understand the chapter better, like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter.